call it what you will, is that so narcissism is a personality style. Okay, so if a personality style could be anything, including narcissism, agreeableness, introversion, neuroticism. Those are all personality styles, right? So narcissism's on the shelf with them. Now we would view narcissism, which sits under a bigger umbrella called antagonism, as a more maladaptive style because their behavior can often put them at odds with other people. Things like the entitlement, the arrogance, the manipulativeness, the grandiosity. These are sort of really uncomfortable patterns. That's narcissism, okay? Now, when we jump the rails to narcissistic personality disorder, it's a whole different game. The reason people really get kind of a bee in their bonnet about this needs to be diagnosed by a licensed mental health practitioner is because in order for a person to be diagnosed with a mental illness, not only do they have to have a laundry list of whatever is associated with that, whether it's depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, substance use disorders, doesn't matter. Personality disorders are the same. So you have to have that list. And this is the ringer. You have to be able to show that that person is either experiencing something we call subjective distress, meaning that they're uncomfortable, or social and occupational impairment, meaning that their life is kind of getting wrecked by this and they're aware of it. It's a lot of awareness and discomfort that many people who are narcissistic don't have. In fact, they're kind of sitting on top of the world. They got a partner, they got a side piece, they've got money, they've got success, they've got power. They're thinking, I ain't got no problems. Now they're burning down everyone around them. But you cannot diagnose someone because someone else is unhappy with their behavior. That's not what our diagnostic systems were designed to do. So when we get into these antagonistic disorders, like narcissistic personality disorder, it's pretty rare that people with these personalities get into treatment. And when they do, it's for some other reason. Their marriage is blowing up. They're using substances. In some cases, they're depressed. Something's gone wrong at work. They've been involved in something sort of publicly that makes them look bad, so they go to therapy to save face. So the thing that gets them into therapy is not like, oh, I've noticed I don't have much empathy and I'm really entitled and arrogant. I'm looking for help with that. Said no one ever. Okay? Yeah. So when they're coming in with something else, often very arrogantly, like, okay, I see your fancy certificates on the wall, doc, so how long is it going to take you to fix me? I'm paying a lot for your time. Very dismissive, very arrogant. Now, every so often you'll see a narcissistic, not every so often, not uncommonly in people who have narcissistic personality disorder, they may also have something else going on, like depression or anxiety, or like I said, a substance use disorder. The therapist is going to focus, as we do, on the more acute issue, the depression, the anxiety, substance use disorder, and they'll try to manage that, right? Through a combination of therapy, maybe medication, whatever they use. Time goes on, the mood's lifting a little, or the anxiety's managed, or they're sober, but they're still really awful and entitled and arrogant and all this other stuff. And because a lot of therapists don't bring personality stuff into the room, they don't think about it, they're thinking that maybe I'm not doing this right. This person still is not, like, they're still not behaving nicely, but they're not using anymore, and their sleep seems to be better. And so you see what I'm saying? The personality is like the baseline. It's the thrum under the other stuff that's happening on top. That's the disorder. You have a personality. I have a personality. For example, I'm introverted. Okay? Believe it or not, incredibly introverted person. That is my personality. It is not going to change. Next week, I am not going to be the life of the party, okay? On any given Saturday night, I tell you the probability is I am home reading a book, watching TV, or doing something ridiculous at home, but I am at home, okay? I can't change that. If you said to me, well, come on, Dr. Arnold, we're going to make you extroverted, I'm like, no, you're not. And if you said, but you have to become extroverted, I might be able to stretch myself, but I'll collapse or I'll be exhausted, or you know what I'm saying? So that's personality. It is who we are. It's a psychological fingerprint of sorts, but it's always right under the surface. So you're not going to make the introvert an extrovert. You're not going to make the neurotic person more sort of relaxed and impulsive. You're not going to take a conscientious person and turn them into someone who is sort of acts out, impulsive, and doesn't plan. These personalities sort of set who we are. And so this is in the case of people who have narcissistic personalities, they have very disagreeable personalities. They have antagonistic personalities. That's the difference. And so before people say it, I'll say, does this person have a lack of empathy? Are they entitled? Do they seek validation? Sometimes people say, well, I think he's narcissistic because he cheated on me. I'm like, well, he cheated on you. That's all I got here.
Yeah.
I don't know if this dude's narcissistic.
Yeah.
You'd have to tell me a little bit more about this person's behavior. And I think people are using this as a buzzword to label or talk about someone who did something that aggravated them. And you got to remember, narcissism's not a one-off. Okay? So if one day someone did something, like they're having a bad week, but in general they're a very even-tempered, warm, compassionate, kind, mindful, self-aware person. That's who they are most of the time. But then 20 things are going wrong. Parent is sick, child is sick, job is going badly, and they're a little bit more short-fused. But they're even saying, I am not at my best. I am so sorry. Cut me a wide berth. I'm so, and they're very aware that they're not behaving well. They're not behaving well. In that case, isn't narcissism. It may just be a bad week.
That's such a great explanation, and I hope everyone who's listening and watching, I hope that's giving you real context